the Football Pod on Off the Ball in partnership with AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. Hashtag the toughest.
You're very welcome back to the Football Pod live from Croke Park. I hope you had a nice break there. We are here with thanks to AIB, proud sponsors of the Senior Football Championship. Check out hashtag the toughest for more, James. Exactly.
Money in the bank, Tom.
I don't know what you were chatting about in the break.
Paddy, I haven't seen this. That's phenomenal.
There you go.
Wow, that is pure class, isn't it? Look at that.
Just before we come out on air, James said, right lads, before we go out here, what's your predictions? So we'll bring them to you.
That was off the record.
We'll bring them to you later on. We were just talking about the Kerry team before we left. And it's a statement of intent, James, you'd say, to start Stephen O'Brien over Adrian Spillane in the sense that it's another scoring forward, another threat for the Dubs to deal with.
Yeah, and I've been on loads of teams where this has been a huge factor, especially against a team like Dublin, where they're going to try and manufacture back a defensive-minded player to sit in front of Clifford. Right? I think the whole game Dublin's whole game plan is going to come around how they nullify Clifford if they can, whether they can or not. But I played in a team with Stephen O'Brien it was actually in 15 as well, and we played Kildare, and Kildare decided they were going to drop off a wing back regardless. They were going to drop number 5 in front of our full forward line, no matter who we lined up there. And we had Stephen O'Brien at 12, and he kicked 5 from play in the first half. So, he took it upon himself that day.
Did Kildare try and blame that on the game being in Croke Park as well? there was terrible music played at half time, I think.
They went.
Sorry, Glenn. Sorry.
But I do think that it's huge that whoever does play the half forward role against a team like Dublin, they have to be a scoring threat, because it'll take so much pressure off Clifford that whoever's playing that side has to push up on someone like Stephen O'Brien rather than sit back in front of David. So if somehow early on Stephen can manufacture a shot at the post or two, it'll really change Dublin's thinking. They'll be like, right, let's solidify here in the half back line before they even think about Clifford, which is danger territory.
Yeah. WhatsApps, any news in the Dubs team, no?
If there was, they wouldn't tell me and Paddy anyway. So
they've gone alphabetical order again, like they did there for a couple of years.
But I do think you need probably to win an All-Ireland final. You need probably 6 or 8 points from your half-forward line. You need a trade. You need 5 or 6 points from your half-forward line anyway. I think you're facing McCarthy, Small, and Gannon. Given Stephen's performance in the second half, it was a huge performance. Anybody who gives that type of a performance in an All-Ireland semi-final has got to be in with a great shout of starting a final. I think another thing for these half forwards, against in Croke Park, and I learned this on the hoof out here in 2013, marking Jack McCaffrey. Stephen, wide players, wing forwards especially, playing with their back to the sideline is a massive advantage if you want to threaten goal and work defensively and create a little bit of a problem in the head of Gannon or Jack McCaffrey, or in my case this was James McCarthy on one side, Jack McCaffrey on the other. These boys were in their mid-20s and I was in my early 30s, and I think that can be a key the next day for the likes of Stephen. Back to the sideline, slip in behind his back the first time, out in front of him the second time, and it just takes away that, it just paralyses a guy that has a lot of pace. And these guys, I don't know if McCarthy will play he'll be named at 5, will probably play at 8. McCaffrey will probably come in at some point. I think Kerry probably had to stiffen up a little bit in that half forward line.
I suppose Kerry have, if you think about Kerry's bench probably isn't as strong as it has been in the past, but even now I'm thinking McCaffrey's going to be coming on. Spillane's actually not a bad matchup on McCaffrey from a defensive point of view. Maybe if they do have to kind of protect the lead, which might be the case, Kerry starts strong, have to weather the storm when Dublin comes strong. McCaffrey comes
Adrian's
on,
plan
possibly
you're talking
Kilkenny.
about.
Yeah,
You're talking
sorry,
about
Adrian's
Killian's
plan.
plan, sorry,
Adrian's
was it
plan.
Jake's? No.
Or McCaffrey
Or
comes
Adrian's plan
on,
is good,
maybe
yeah.
Kilkenny comes on, and Kerry have to make a few defensive changes. Maybe that's what they're thinking. That it's a case of, we have our scores on the board, let's nullify Dublin's phenomenal bench, which is a factor.
It's going to be a big thing. Cian, does it give the Dubs more to think about?
It does and it doesn't. Like, there's so much that you can read into the opposition, and is that the real starting team or not? And you can get your head wound up on that, which is probably not the most helpful thing. I think Dublin would have talked about Kerry, probably wound up that conversation earlier in the week, parked that, and then focused it on themselves to tape that out. And they have to continue to do that, because you just, as a defensive unit, you can't predict, because you can make estimations of how they might set up. But beyond that, if you're trying to nail your flag to the post on a specific way as how the opposition is going to set up, you're setting yourself up for failure, because if they don't do that, your plan is completely out the window. So you have to be fluid in how a team sets up. If Stephen O'Brien does start, okay, that might pose an extra layer of difficulty in terms of getting a free man back to cover our full back line. And they'll have a conversation around that and park it, and then that's it. If he doesn't start, well then it doesn't really change. You know, you can't predict whether Kerry are going to play 6 up or not, because it's completely out of your control. So what they can control is how they're going to set their stall out, who they're going to try and free up, and how they're going to play on opposition kickouts, and then how they're going to retreat when the opposition are advancing on an offense. And then beyond that, you're probably wasting your time in predicting things.
We might come back to how the Dubs are going to set up in terms of dropping that free man or making that free man a little later on, and you're the perfect person to talk to about that, given the role you played for so long in that 5 in a row. I would be interested in knowing, though, about All-Ireland final week, and you mentioned dummy teams there and not knowing whether you're starting or not. It must be very difficult. Like, James, you would have, in 19, am I right in saying, you would have been on the comeback from injury. You were maybe in the mix to get back. You definitely come on in the replay, as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
Were you close to starting that game at all?
I actually tore my calf in a league game, and I was out for a long time, a good couple of months with my calf, and I was coming back, and I didn't make the panel for the first All-Ireland final in 19. Peter Keane was manager, my club manager at the moment.
Oh.
And I still don't forgive him for that.
In the Legion.
But for the replay, I got called in for a drugs test just before, maybe on the Tuesday night before the game.
By who?
They obviously saw me with top off, and they said, test get that fella in for the test ASAP. But it was my.
Were you away in Vegas the weekend before?
I'm depressed over the laugh that got. But no, myself and Jason Foley were called in for a drug test.
Yeah, I could see Jason Foley. You.
And we actually missed most of the session, but we were called in anyway. And your man was there was a male nurse outside and a female nurse in the room then doing the actual testing. So your man was obviously, he was a Dublin fan anyway, the fucker. He was giving us awful lip outside. He was saying, "Jeez, you're not going to win the weekend, really, are you? Like, you know, you've no chance. You've had a handy run to the final, blah, blah, blah. You're not really up to it." He was kind of giving all these snide remarks. Myself and Jason Foley, we have to get this fella back somehow anyway. So Jason went in first into get the test, and we said, we'll try and make out now that this is the most unprofessional setup there is going, and we'll try and rattle your man. So Jason comes out after getting the test, and he goes, "Jesus Christ," to your man, the fella who was giving us guff, "You're one." She was all over me inside getting the test. Where the fuck did you pick your one up? And I was sitting there going, "Where are you going with this?" But he came down to me, and your man, he didn't like it. So I picked up and I said, "I'll carry on from Jason's go." So I went in anyway and came out, and your man was with Jason, and I said, "Jesus, Jason, you're right. You're one, the gamiest thing ever." She tried to follow me in, going for the urine test and everything. Saying, your man, he was getting sadder and sadder. Eventually, he looked up and he went, that's my wife. I don't know how we passed the fucking drugs test because I thought he was going to fail it.
Slam dunk.
That's the class thing.
Go on, Jimmy.
And he asked me then later on that night, he came over to me, he goes, are you serious about that?
I had no idea where that was going.
That started out as a question about the All-Ireland final.
Yeah,
Wow.
Well done, James. Paddy, when we were talking about Cian coming on the show tonight, you were talking about some of the AVB games you would have had, and you'd be looking at each other, and Cian O'Sullivan be on the sideline maybe 2 weeks from an All-Ireland, and you'd be saying, nah, no chance Cian's going to make it back. And he somehow managed to make miraculous recoveries in, was it 15, 17, 19 Cian? You were struggling for all three. What was that you were seeing? Like, was he just...
Well, from our point of view, it was like, this is the biggest game. Anyone, we're all GA fans, that's where we're all here. You grow up as a kid, this is the game. The All-Ireland final is the pinnacle of our sport. You are fortunate enough to be in a position to, one, play for your county and then get to this level and have the opportunity to play in an All-Ireland final. You do anything you can to play in this game, you know. And the reality is, every season there's guys suspended, there's guys injured. Tony Brosnan is the case this week. That's what happened. It's your 20 years of your life building towards this thing. And in Cian's angle, and it wasn't just Cian, we had a couple of guys, you pick up knocks, and that's just the nature of elite sport. And there was a couple of times, Cian, oh Jesus, you were under a pump to be available, and the effort and sacrifice that goes into talk about leaving no stone unturned to be on the pitch. And there was the weeks of games, and we were looking going, Cian's not going to happen, like. And the credit to the man, whatever you had to do it, like some of the stories he'll tell you now himself, but just to be on the pitch and do your job for the team, and it's an incredible thing, but there's an incredible pride and motivation to do it as well, and it's just unbelievable respect, because there's times you were in tight shape, like three or four days beforehand. Like.
How bad would it get? Like, how bad would you be before these games? Like, are we talking a hamstring tweak, or what are you on about?
No, grade 3 hamstring tears, like 2 weeks out from an All-Ireland final, you know. It was pretty bad injuries that you're kind of told that you're not, and we all have injury stories here, and lads have come through very, very tight and precarious. I'm sure Sean Bugler as well in the lead up to this game. I really hope that he is playing, but it's a difficult place to be, but you learn a lot about yourself when you're there as well. Your back's against the wall, and you have the full support of your teammate and your families to do whatever you possibly can to get back, and you will do anything, you know, anything for 2 weeks, just drank, slept, ate, recovery, and whatever intervention you could get your hands on to give you a tiny little percent. And yeah, 15 and the replay for 19, I managed to get back and play in those 2 games. In 17, okay, after 20 minutes, the hamstring went again, but I ran out of road in 20 and 21, but for a couple of those other finals, I managed to get back. And 2015 was probably like obviously winning an All-Ireland is a massive honour, and you know the euphoria that brings, but the sense of personal pride that I had from actually getting on the pitch in the first place in that day was, you know, you'd nearly say it was all worthwhile, because it was just, you know, really, really fulfilling to come through that adversity and to get yourself on the pitch and to be part of it. So, yeah, hairy moments. It almost became a running gag in the team that I sure wouldn't be All Ireland final week if Cian wasn't running up and down the side of the pitch or in an ice chamber or something like that. So we made fun of it. But yeah, it was.
Yeah. Cian O'Sullivan.
Sorry, Tom. Cian, how like, say the week before training, how close to 100% would you have to get to be named to start? Like, would you need to train fully on the Thursday? Would you need to train fully on the Tuesday? Was it a case of just run up and down the field on the Thursday and you're on?
No, not even that. Like I think in 2015 it was I think maybe the Friday before the All-Ireland final, I had to do a fitness test. So they picked out 2 forwards, Conor McHugh and somebody else, to do 3 or 4 one-on-ones with me. And if I was able to get through them unscathed, Jim was happy to plough ahead with me, and I managed to, and that was at the start of the game, and it was great. I was very, very thankful for that. And then in that game, it was a really rainy day. The ball was slipping and sliding everywhere, and it just suited me down to the ground because I never really had to put the burners on. I thought maybe, we didn't know what kind of Kerry team was going to line out, whether Dan or Sullivan would start centre forward or not. He didn't, thankfully, because that probably would have caused me a lot of bother trying to chase him around the place.
Who did play?
Johnny Buckley, was
I think it was Buckley.
Yeah.
Buckley on the day.
It's worked for us, huh?
So yeah, I got lucky in a lot of respects as well. But yeah, interesting times, and I was very, very lucky and fortunate to get through some of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul, you would have started, you mentioned from 04 to 09 you're in 6 All-Ireland finals. 1-4, lost 2. You also play All-Ireland finals in 11 and 15. You know, I think you started 5 and 3 you come on in. Does it change your perspective when you know you're probably going to not be starting and you're going to be coming in as an impact sub? Because you did come on in those 3 finals. You probably knew you were coming in at certain stages. Did that change your preparation or your perspective in that week before an All-Ireland?
I suppose, yeah, in the week you're just trying to make sure that you're creating a good energy for the guys around you, you know, and that you're supportive of the guys that are, you know, in the position that you might want to be in or might have been in the past. And I remember before the 11 final, particularly speaking to just making sure I connected with Kieran O'Leary, who started that final, and making sure he knew that I was with him, and I was, you know what I mean, and I was supporting him. You know, I think that is important. I suppose it changes in the sense that you're less maybe selfish about your preparation. I found I was just more about making sure the energy is good, and the guys, you know what I mean, that you're adding a bit in that regard. I remember the 11 final. I had a hip surgery in the end of 2010. It was quite complicated, and it cost me a lot of time in 2011. I had this hip surgery on my right hip, and I tore my hamstring a few times on my right side as a result in 11. But anyway, on the morning of the 11 final, I was in the gym. I remember. I know you were chatting about this a few weeks ago about me lifting Corky and me lifting.
Hold on a second. Is that true? Is that true? Yeah.
I actually, to be honest with you, I had to check in with. I met Star after that, and I said, "Geez, I don't think I was lifting Corky, was I?" And he said, "Well, you were definitely lifting me." And so I lifted on here. I'd have to ask Corky, but I was always lifting the boys in the dressing room. But I would have gone to the gym in the morning. I would go to the gym in the morning. I would have done my weights in the morning, and then just before the game, I'd lift whoever was near me, Anthony Maher. Corky, I must have. You said it, did I? You said
You
it.
could have picked anyone. You looked at Mike Quirk and you goes, "Come here."
All 6'10" of them.
But it was great. It was great prep for me. It was good for my body. It brought up just. So gym in the morning, and then I'd get a lift in the huddle. I would have done this in the pitch, so I did it quite regularly.
What did the strength and conditioning coach see you? Bench pressing Quirky.
I don't know.
But no, you said it. It's proven, isn't it, Paul, that you like to squat heavy for 1 or 2 reps actually does ignite your central nervous system. Keane, you should have tried that.
No, it does. Like we had our own take on strength and conditioning, Paddy. In Kerry. And we did.
I can see that.
And we did. You know what I mean? We were late adopters, dubious. I wasn't, I have to say, but a lot of our guys were. Wait. And that's true, you know, and you know, so we were kind of just. Pat Flanagan came in 04, 05, 06. It was there. It was new, and it was introduced, and it was good for us. And then we probably had believers and kind of not non-believers, but everyone else is doing it, so we'll have to do it, type of thing.
It was a different era, though.
But the morning of the 11 final, I wasn't starting, but I was in the gym in Carton House, and it was empty, and I was doing single leg press and some lunges and So I did my bit anyway, and I was leaving the gym, and there was 2 or 3 steps. I still remember them. I can see them. I can still see them. There's 2 or 3 steps out of the gym in Carton House. So I hit the steps anyway, and I was like, oh, geez, my legs. my legs were weak and wobbly, you know. And I thought, I checked the time. I was like, what time is it? And I thought I might have overdone it, you know. And it was maybe, what time? Maybe 10. And I thought, yeah, I should be okay. I won't come on probably till the second half. And the next thing, Jack calls me after 20 minutes. And I go, fuck it. I could have done with the extra hour, but.
What had you done?
Pardon?
What had you done, gym wise?
Single leg press, not a lot, 4 to 5. You know what I mean? A
100 reps.
set on the single leg press, a set of dumbbell lunges.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But you know, it's possible to do. Team, you know what I mean? Teams do this.
Yeah.
Teams can
It's
lift.
different strokes for different folks. You've
Oh,
told
yeah.
the story
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
about Gooch. You were a roommate of Gooch before one of the finals, and 1:45, you went back up to the room.
Yeah. He got 1 6 or 7 in the game, and whatever year that was, 07 I'd say. So we had up for breakfast, bit of physio or whatever fellas were getting ready. Team meeting at 12ish. I think it was 12. There was lunch. Was it before lunch or after lunch? It couldn't have been after lunch, but it was late. I went to get my bag, and the room was dark. So I'm getting my bag to go on the bus, or to put on the bus, and the room's dark, and next thing, under the duvet, there's a little bit of movement, and I say, Jesus, Colm, no word. Colm. I turn on the light, there's Colm. Top of his head, under the duvet, is all I can see, and he's sound asleep. And I said, you all right? And he goes, what time is it? And I said, it's time to go,
It's 3
buddy.
o'clock.
It's showtime. And he just said, right. And I was like, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. So I went down, and I was, genuinely, I was like, is he okay? Is he sick, or is he? But anyway, we went down, we put the bags on, and we went after the game, and I mean, he kicked 1-7, he was brilliant. That was him, though, you know, just relaxed, and me pumping iron in the gym, and your man asleep.
There you go. There you have it.
Danny used to get into the jacuzzi for about half an hour.
That's like the opposite
With a
of what you should
smoke, with a cigar as well.
But a warm up, he used to get the warm up in. Every fella has
warm-up,
different
that was
things.
the
to
Everyone's
warm up.
different, yeah.
It's mad how everyone is different.
Yeah.
We were saying, even with our lads, we were talking about this before, I don't know what it was, dressing room dynamics, and it's the same the world over. Every level, every team, different sports teams, there's lads who are, Paul, laser like. Lads like the Gooch, do you think he's after having a fucking stroke? We had Michael Derek McCauley, we had Dermo, we had to go and find Dermo sometimes. It was like, he's over in the Clonliffe house, like Dermo. Pick me up on the way from the Gibson, like. You know, you go down and like all the Dublin fans are outside, and there's Dermo in a bucket hat. I was like, come on, you're number 12 today, lovely. Who are we playing? I was like, Kerry, they're good. But it's the same, and it's gas. People have this idea around dressing rooms, and you know, you go in beforehand and these gladiatorial speeches, and Jim Gavin or Jack O'Connor or Desi Farr at the weekend, or Clucko comes in at half time and there's this Herculean speech, and I can't remember any of that stuff. It was just very, if you're chasing that stuff at half time in an All-Ireland final, or 10 minutes before you go out on the pitch, you're under pressure. It's about just everyone do their own thing. The work is done. You're not going to find some silver bullet 5 minutes before you go out onto the pitch, you know.
Catherine is down the back, producer Catherine. She's got a mic and she's waving it around. If anyone has a question, we're probably going to get to 1 or 2 questions here. We're going to do another probably 15, 20 minutes. We better talk about the match, lads.
Oh, there is a match. There's a match on Sunday.
There's one. What's going to happen with this fella? What are you going to do with this guy, Keane, David Clifford? What's going to happen here? I don't know. You've man-marked Clifford before.
Yeah, it's an impressive stance.
Could you ever get your hamstring that high?
This is 2018 league final debut. You had quite a novel technique. This is Clifford's first league game against Dublin. Quite a novel a way of trying to stop him here. I think we have another photo. Karate chop.
Didn't
I
work,
like
did
that.
it?
So what
near
are the Dubs going to do this weekend to stop David Clifford?
Yeah. Look, he's obviously an incredible talent. Nobody needs to harp on anymore about that, and I think it's been well documented what he brings. You know.
Are you going man on man?
Well, I don't like this concept of man on man. Like defenses win championships. You know, Declan Darcy always say that to us. Defenses win championships, and your defensive unit isn't about going man on man in the front six or anywhere over the pitch. It's about the communication, the telepathy, the unity of your whole 15, not just your back six or your full back line. It's how you all work in sync and everyone being on the same page. And out there on that pitch, it's really, really difficult because talking, yelling, shouting at each other is not going to work. So you need to have that understanding or that bond well instilled before you get to a game like this. So dealing with David Clifford, I think obviously there's going to be a man tasked to go man on man on him, but that doesn't mean that it isn't the rest of the team's responsibility to nullify that threat, as well as the other threats that are around the pitch.
Would it be fair to say that Mick Fitz will more than likely mark him like he did last year, and there'll be an expectation on one of the Dubs to fulfill the role that you would have played a lot, which would have been, you would have been freed up to drop back a lot and sweep?
Yeah, and that's no different to any other marquee forward, how we would have set up against them and how this Dublin team does set up against them. You can probably, it's paralysis by analysis, and you can probably focus too much on David Clifford, and I think that's quite a defeatist attitude to go into a game, to be focusing too much on the opposition. Yes, there is almighty respect that has to be paid to his talent and what he does for Kerry, but Dublin have to impose their own game plan and their own way of playing, and park that and be happy that they have whatever plan in place to deal with that, which is probably, I don't know if Mick Fitz is going to pick him up or not. I'd be very, very happy and comfortable with Mick Fitz doing it. I think he's done a fantastic job. I think the second half last year, he kept him quite enough. 2019, maybe in the replay, he picked him up and he did quite well. So you've got your man-on-man element to it. Secondly, then, I think, you know, trying to give an extra bit of cover to your full back line for him and the other threats that are in there with Gainey and Paddy, Clifford or Killian Spillane, whoever it is. So how do Dublin orchestrate that? Back to that Stephen O'Brien point, starting in the wing forward, does that make that a little bit more difficult to do? But again, that's not just one designated player. Like it starts up on the corner forward, being able to release that player all the way back. So it is a whole team effort and everyone being on the same page. And if you're over obsessing about a Shawnee O'Shea or a Paddy Clifford, like players are smart enough these days that if they know they're being man marked and they're being followed everywhere religiously, they'll just take themselves out of the game and just go over to the sideline and leave massive channels open for everyone to exploit. So lads can't be given this instruction that they have to just nullify this person. It's up to them. It's their responsibility. Yes, they're marking them, but it's the whole unit. It's the whole team's responsibility to keep an eye on these guys. And then lastly, like every player has a routine. Every player has a certain way that they play. And you know, Mick Fitz is an extremely intelligent guy. He will look at opposition players that he's due to pick up forensically, and he'll know what makes them tick, what's their favourite way. Like down along that Cusick side, if Kerry are playing into the hill, Clifford likes to take it on that line, and he must have one of the strongest right quads in the country, because that power that he gets off his right foot to put him back on his left is pretty impressive. That's where he gets his yard. And he only needs is a little. His ball to foot speed is so phenomenal. Quick. It's crazy. But if you kind of know that's where he wants to go, you're nearly preempting that play, and you're saying, yeah, I know you're going to push back, and I know when you're going to push back, so I'm going to be one step ahead of you. So look,
that's really interesting. Is there one player in particular that you'd expect or hope to drop back for Dublin and be helping out with Mick Fitz?
I think Brian Howard is very, very capable of that role, and I used to love playing with Howie when he was wing forward because he got that whole defensive thing really, really, really well.
Wasn't he? He was an unbelievably intelligent player for a young guy.
Yeah.
Usually, you learn the game or you learn that position, and particularly at that level, because you can't hear a thing on the pitch. You can't communicate. It has to be preparation has to be done. There's literally the only thing you could see is a body language or a body shape, and you need to know this is how you need to be so tuned in, and that's quite rare for young players. But Howie, to be fair to his credit, I think we all kind of recognised that when he came in, like this guy, no more so Paul, you saying about James in that schools game, smart players get it, and they get it quick, and they take to this level, and I think that was such a key strength of Howie. Howie was playing a similar role, kind of supplementing Keane, like in 2018, when he came on, he was only a kid, like, so that's quite rare, but I think that's what he has, and
but I'll tell
definitely
you
a key that he's going to need to bring on Sunday.
I'll tell you where Clifford is different from a lot of corner forwards, right? And it's something that a lot of us as corner forwards don't have in the locker that he has.
Oh, go on.
If you had it in the locker, you had it in the locker. Say you're playing corner forward, right? You're very much reliant on the ball coming in maybe fast and you getting a yard, taking a shot from 25, 30 yards. That's your zone, right? But if the ball is slowed down by Kerry at the moment, Clifford actually comes out to maybe 11 or even further out towards midfield, between midfield and 11. And he has a kick in his locker from 45, 50 metres that not many corner forwards have.
No,
you're
I
thinking
didn't
back
have
to,
that.
You're thinking back to you're thinking back to great Cork teams that had that. Colin Corker and these fellas. Like Clifford has that. He'll cheat out, he'll wait, he'll let the ball rotate, and you can do all the preparation for that you want. He'll just make a yard and he'll kick it 50 yards and it will have 20 yards to spare. I think that's an extra level to a player that hasn't kind of been seen from a corner forward point of view.
But there's an element with this on Sunday, right? And Clifford's obviously getting incredible coverage. Obviously, he's probably the marquee player in the game. It's the marquee match. And Keane, you touched on it. I know from our team, we were never overly obsessive. You respect the opposition, obviously, and we played against some of you brilliant guys during our period as well. Dublin are going to attack this game, as are Kerry. They're not going to turn around and say, David Clifford is so good, we're going to bring back 10 guys and we're going to pack the defence and do that and try and defend our way to win this game. I have said it, I'd say nearly on a weekly basis on this podcast, that reductive style of play will get you to a certain point, and loads of teams play this way, but you will not win the biggest prizes. And it's no coincidence that on Sunday, in what was arguably the most open championship, unbelievably covered by GAA Go. Sorry. His eyes glazed over there. Sorry, but in what was arguably the most open championship, that we've got the two most traditional teams, the two most technically proficient teams, because Kerry believe they're the best team in the country and they're going to try and win this game. They don't fear Dublin. Dublin think they're the best team in the country and they're going to go and attack this game, and they don't fear Kerry. And that's the beauty. There's nearly a point where you can say, yeah, Clifford is going to get space. Somebody has to score. Yeah. Dublin are going to, Connor's going to score, Clifford's going to score, but it's not obsessing about taking so much away from your game to try and nullify that. You have nearly a respect and a maturity to say, yeah, okay, he can hurt us. We accept that. That's what the best players do, but we're going to go after them as well. And that's why Sunday and Dublin Kerry games that we all played in, and way before our time as well, why this rivalry is so special, because there's a history of teams, I don't want to say the right way or the wrong way, but there's teams of playing attacking football. And I think that's what you're going to see on Sunday. And Clifford will have a major role in it, but Dublin they're not going to change the moon and stars just to stop that.
Yeah. Paul, before we get to the questions from the crowd, can you pick an area for us that you think is integral this weekend, or an area where you think the game will be won or lost?
I think Paddy makes a good point there. I think Dublin will attack David Clifford. I think, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm not just yet sold on the matchup of Mick Fitzsimons and David Clifford. For some reason, if memory serves me, am I not right in saying that Lee Gannon picked him up early on in last year's semi-final? I've a memory of Lee Gannon running.
I don't think Gannon has played
taking him on
much
early on.
There was a couple.
There was a
couple of minutes for sure.
I'm not buying the Fitzsimons matchup just yet. And I think that they will go and look to run David and attack David, literally attack him. I think they will. If it was me, I think I would. So I'm interested to see how that plays out.
But Paul, when Derry, McCaig tried to do that once or twice, and McCaig launched into a run up the field, and Cliffy just decided, have it. Now, different against Derry than Dublin, 100% I agree. But I wonder, will he do the same thing and just say, off you go there and tire yourself out, I'll let Darragh Moynihan track you, or will he go with
I would be prepared for it, and I would be having Dara or Stephen picking him up. I'm sure Gannon got a point early on in that game last year and threatened the goal a few times early on in that game. I think so. I'm interested in that part. An area I think it's the middle of the field. I think it's kickouts. I think Dublin will go long. If I'm Dublin and I'm all year long, and you mentioned the AVBs earlier, and I think this is the key point. If all summer or for the last 6 or 8 weeks Dublin have had in the middle of, on one end Comerford, on the other end Cluxton, in the middle of the field Fenton, McCarthy, Howard, Dias, O'Cuffig Byrne, Lehif, 6 guys competing for 2 spots, that's very powerful. I think there's nothing to drive competition in training than midfield battle and having 4 proper guys thinking they should be playing. These have 6. Like Dias not long ago, your club mate, won an All-Ireland club with Kilmacud a number of months ago. He hasn't got a look in with Dublin yet. O'Cuffig Byrne, I seen O'Cuffig Byrne go up against Dermot in a Sigerson Cup game about 18 months ago. It was an amazing battle. Like O'Cuffig Byrne probably had the better of the first half, Dermot had the better of the second half. My worry is that area. I don't see any benefit for Dublin in going short in this game. I think if you have had that level of competition in training all year, I think now is the day, and Sunday is the day to go for it.
I think, I said this on Monday night, I think as much as the individual stuff, the midfield battle in this game is absolutely critical. And if you look, and you have to give credit and hold your hand up, prior to the quarter-final, Dermot O'Connor and Jack Barry were being questioned, and that's the long and the short of it. They were bullied against Mayo in Fitzgerald Stadium, and they were coming up against Tyrone. Didn't have a lot going for them this season, but in Con Kilpatrick and Brian Kennedy, they wanted to stand out midfield partnership, and we were all teeing this up that's a massive area that Tyrone are going to make hay. Dermot O'Connor, I think, for me, plays his best game for Kerry, exceptional performance. Then they blow Tyrone away. Then they go to the semi-final, and again they're playing the next probably marquee midfield in Glass and Rogers. Rogers gets a couple of points. He only gets them, and Dermot O'Connor gets his black card. But Conor Glass has arguably his quietest game of the season, and that again has to go credit to the 2 Kerry guys at midfield. And now they're going on to the next iconic people in Fenton and McCarthy, who have been phenomenal for Dublin. If the Dubs, Fento and McCarthy, can perform at the levels we were fortunate enough to be on the teams with and win that midfield battle, not only does it put massive pressure on Shane Ryan, kickouts for Kerry, and gives Dublin a platform to get a Kerry's full back line, but it slows that transition for Clifford. If the Kerry boys come up trumps and they can get the ball up the pitch quickly, talk about +1s and manufacturing this, that and the other, you are under pressure. It's so pivotal, that duel in the middle of the pitch.
Big time. Dermot O'Connor will have to come out of this game the top midfielder in the country.
Yeah,
and I think he's got that ability. He's come on brilliant for us. Like really, he's a
quality player.
He has made some steps. This is this step. This is the step for him. It's the step for 4 or 5 others. Can they come up? I think he will have to. Jack Barry will have to come with him. But if I'm Dublin, I'm putting a lot of my eggs in that basket, and I'm saying, we've been fighting in the middle of the field all summer for these spots. Me and you and you and you. There's 5 or 6 of us going for it. In Kerry, there's been Dermot and Jack and Barry, O'Sullivan, and then I don't know who after that. And that is a worry for me. And if I'm Cluxton, I'm going for that. And I'm going, boys, we'll go in the air and we'll go on the ground. And I'll bank a lot on my middle 8. I remember that going back to schools football. I learned this lesson with you guys in that schools football. It's a lot easier to switch, to put emphasis on playing long and winning it in the air and winning breaks and then deciding we have to go short.
Yeah,
then
the other way around.
Then to be going short all the time and then thinking, shit, we have to go long.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to change that focus to, I need to catch this in the air, I need to win a break. It's nearly impossible. So if I'm in Dublin, I'm going, we'll bombard them. Forget short.
That's very interesting.
Forget short. Bombard them. try and kill them in primary possession and murder them in secondary, because for weight of bodies and competition internally all summer, I feel like they may have the edge there.
But it's Paul, that's what we're talking
The
about.
training ground, Paddy. The training ground ultimately.
Oh, that's where it comes.
The AVB, where has
That's
it been
where
at?
the magic
You know,
happens.
you mentioned AVB games before All Ireland finals. We could probably do another hour on that.
But I was saying, for that point, there's a risk in that. And a lot of teams will play possession. We want to keep our kickouts. Dublin will go long. And we credit to Shane Ryan, he has caused us problems. We've gone after his kickout in All Ireland finals, and he's been exceptional himself. There's a risk in going long because you might not secure possession, but the reward you get if Fento goes up and plucks one, and now we're in their half, or Dermot O'Connor on Kerry's side does it, that could be the key play in a game. So there's risk in it, but that's what it's about. Like.
As a corner forward, right? If you see the ball being put down, you're on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
It's chipped out. You're like, oh, for fuck's
Yeah, painful.
I'm not seeing this ball. I'm not seeing this ball.
5
for
minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Killer.
Whereas
You're going up for
you
the
see
smoke,
him
like.
take a couple of steps back. You're like, I'm on here.
Yeah.
Do you know, let's go. And because if you win that, you're only one kick pass away from the play.
Yeah.
So if you can win that primary possession to midfield, get a dish, get it in, you're in the game.
Changes the game.
It gets your full forward line in the game. It gets Khan, it gets Costello, gets Pascal, and on the other side, Clifford, Gainey, Clifford. Like, it gets you into the game if you go along. It's such a bonus if you can win your kickouts.
And it's easy to decide to go short. We decided in that one of those Munster finals that we played, we decided because there was the opposition team from Cork had a big midfield, and we had Paul Galvin in a big midfield, and a big midfield battle was expected. So we just went short, and it worked. And so it's a lot easier to go long, and then decide to go short if you want to, than to go the other way around.
100%.
Yeah, you'd be
That
excited.
that would be an area where I'd be. Yeah, I think it comes down to that.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to that. It's simple, but
Very interesting. You'd be very excited now for Sunday after listening to that, wouldn't you? Whoever had the questions, Catherine, I think, has lost you. Put your hands up again if you're chatting to Catherine, and she'll find you there. Catherine, we have two up here, I think. And
There's one, Paul Galvin. Who's your toughest opponent and why?
who's your toughest opponent, Paul?
Who's your toughest
And
opponent
why?
and why?
I suppose going back, I suppose to the early, like when I started out, I have a few years on the boys. I suppose the 03, 04 in my first. I played a league final here in 2004 against Galway. I was marking Declan Meehan.
Oh. And he was like
Brilliant
Declan
player.
Meehan.
He was footballer of the year at the time.
Yeah.
And I learned a lesson that day. I thought he was footballer of the year and he was good in that league campaign, and Jack had come to me and said just keep an eye on him, and I kept an eye on him for the whole game, and I never played. And he was that fast.
He just attacked.
He attacked, and I thought, yeah, he dictated things to me.
And he was a playmaker for
He
Galway
was a
too,
great
wasn't
player.
he? Yeah.
And he was a great player. He was a kicker. He could carry it, but he could equally pass inside. He'd say, you'd love him. He'd whip it into you.
He scored one of the best All-Ireland final goals
Unbelievable.
ever in 2000 against Kerry from the bottom corner.
Who gave the pass?
Clancy's.
Who gave the pass?
Joyce.
Paul Clancy's pass.
Who was the choice?
Paul Clancy.
Paul
made the
Clancy.
pass.
Oh, Joyce starts the move.
Joyce
yeah.
there. What a goal. One of the greats.
And tough as well, you know.
That was a great question. Just while Catherine's lining up the second one, who's the toughest player you marked?
You get this question a lot, and one that sticks out, Stephen O'Neill. I was just starting out. He was kind of coming towards the end of his career, but marked him a couple of times, and
Love the dummy solo.
he
Stephen
kind of
O'Neill.
ticked every box. Skill, power. He was a real competitor. You know, had a bit of an edge to him. Pace, incredibly accurate. Both feet, had all the tricks in the bag. He was a tough cookie.
Hard
Yeah.
to top that, yeah.
Friend of the pod, Stephen O'Neill.
Friend of the pod. Who's not a friend of the pod?
I think he is still scarred defenders. I noticed with blockdowns in the game today, there's a big fear of going for blockdowns. There's guys that could be blocking down but aren't committing to blockdowns. And I think Stephen O'Neill,
Peter Kelly.
The Superman block.
the dummy solo, and Rory Canavan.
He did a Superman
Rory
dive to try and
Rory
block that down.
Canavan's dummy solo went global.
Unbelievable.
And I think there's the defender in the game that will go for a blockdown again.
Rory
He
Canavan's
was on
brought it
CNN.
back, hasn't he?
He was on CNN, that was.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. Have we got one more question? Sorry, I didn't get your name there, but that was a great question. One more, Catherine, yeah?
Hi, Tommy. There is a question at the end of this, but I just want to talk about goal celebrations.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's all around.
Love that.
When we look at any soccer match and you look at the goal celebrations, and yet in the GAA, we're so reticent about celebrating great goals. You know, there's only so many iconic moments like Joe Brawley at the Ulster final in '98, or Mulligan shaping to the hill in 2005. But I think of, say, the Dublin team from, say, 2010 up to now. We're talking 14 years. I can remember Bernard Brogan's brilliant goal into the hill against Cork, and obviously we all remember Kevin Mack's goal the following year. But of all the goals that I've seen Dublin score in that 14-year period, the one that leaves the biggest impression on me was a goal that was scored on June the 1st, 2013. Okay? And this player celebrated this goal as if he'd never scored one before. And this player celebrated this goal as if he was never going to score another one, and he was right on both occasions. Is there any possibility we could get Paddy Andrews to reenact the Westmeath celebration goal?
It's a great question. Pull that up. I'll have to get that.
Trying to make the show now.
Paddy.
I think, is that against Leash, was it?
Tommy, was it the robot?
The only championship goal you scored for Dublin. It's incredible.
I remember it.
I'll give you a few quid. I'll give you a few quid for that.
But hold on.
Actually,
it's a great goal. You stick it in the top corner, but you must remember the celebration. I remember it.
I remember that. I was right beside it at the time, and he did. What did he do with the machine gun? Did he?
we were winning by about 30 points. First round of the Leinster Championship, and I nearly had to top off. No one at the game. There's about 10,000 people at it. I was like giving it Alan Shearer, and I was like, No, great question though. Great question.
I'll find that celebration. I'll put it out. I can't find it at the minute, but yeah, brilliant, very good. James, you were fond of a celebration, though, weren't you?
Top short.
No.
Ham in at the back.
It was a pass. A pass. Anyway,
you would have celebrated a few goals, wouldn't you?
Ah, fucking celebrate.
I think so.
13,
Points.
you gave a big one when you scored into the hill. Cluxon never moved that day. We won't get into that again. We won't get into that again.
So man, brutal and goal.
It's interesting that a goal is such a massive moment in a game. I think.
Is his mic out, is it? Your mic has just come
No
out there.
harm. Lovely.
So there's two quick things that we just want to mention here. Paddy, we've mentioned this in the pod a couple of times over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I have.
The Laura Lynn Foundation, there's a fundraiser taking place. If you search for a gift for Grace, you'll find it. And I think the family would really welcome any donations. Some of the lads from your club are going on a cycle from Dublin to Mallow to raise funds for an unbelievable cause. So,
it's on the 11th and 12th of August. A very good friend of mine, club mate, that charity is obviously very close to his heart. Horrendous pain for families if they ever have to avail of that. So there's a new service centre being built in Mallow in County Cork, and there's a cycle happening from Leopardstown, the main Laura Lynn service centre, that weekend. So that's the charity, an unbelievable cause. I'm sure everyone will agree. So if you can throw a few quid in or anything, any sort of help you can for that cause, much appreciated. And I know we've mentioned on the pod, a lot of people have already, and we're very, very grateful. So yeah, that's if you can.
Very much so. And on a slightly different note, I actually almost forgot about this, and James gave the game away a little earlier. We had the small matter of 2 tickets for Sunday to give away. The All-Ireland final, it's all courtesy of AIB, so a huge thanks to them. And just before I mention it, they also brought in Sam Maguire today. Like, that is pretty cool. So there you go. So
we'll take that. We'll bring that with us.
Oh my God.
5 people in the room. I think there's about 800 people there. There's lads standing in the back as well. Sorry you couldn't get a seat, lads.
It's on.
Put your hand on your seat. There's 5 envelopes numbered 1 to 5, and if you have one of those, please stand up. You're in the mix. If you have an envelope, you haven't won tickets, you're in the mix. You haven't won tickets.
Nothing now. I tried to rig it. They wouldn't let me.
Hold on to your envelope if you want it.
It's just a 5 pairs of tickets. 1 pair. Oh, Jesus, Jimmy.
Hold on there now, James. Hold on, James. Hold on.
You've one job here.
So,
is this our 5?
James, just hold on. Make
How
sure.
many draws have we done?
1.
One draw.
There should be 5 people. Just hold on 1 second. Can you put your hand up if you have an envelope and you're standing up? So we've 1, 2, 3, 4,
It's 5 there.
Are we missing one? 5. I have all 5, okay? And you have your numbers. James,
Are you all from Dublin?
Right, James O'Donoghue's going to pick out a number here.
Draw.
And if it's your number, you've won the tickets to the All-Ireland final this weekend. What number, James?
Go on.
James O'Donoghue. Number 4.
Number 4.
Wow.
There's that. Congratulations.
Kerry woman. Good man.
That's great. You can revolute me the €180.
Well done, James, and congratulations. And that's thanks to AIB, so that's a great prize. They're like gold dust this week. First off, a huge thanks to everybody who listens to the podcast every week. Me and James and Paddy get great crack every Monday. We love it, and thanks for turning up today. It's fantastic. I think you'll all agree that the place looks amazing. There's an unbelievable production team and events team and off the ball, and they've put all that together. And AIB, who sponsored the podcast, made this happen tonight, so a huge thanks to them. I actually had it written down here at one stage. I didn't.
Hold on, before we go, where's the Dublin team? You showed us the Kerry team, show us the Dublin team.
What's that?
Where's the Dublin team?
Where's the Dublin team? We haven't got it yet, have
Are
we?
we doing predictions here for Sunday?
I'm going to get the predictions now just before we go.
Nail your colours to the mast here. No messing.
Tommy, a guaranteed draw. He's what he's going to say.
Mead can do something.
Predictions.
Putting you on the spot.
Tommy's
Who are you
going to
going
say
for?
draw.
I'd have to say why.
Give me what you have 10 seconds to say what.
I slightly Dublin, and I think bench.
The bench.
The bench.
Okay. Paul?
I would have, and you can check my tweets on this. I felt Dublin. I felt Dublin all year would be the team. I agree with Cian in terms of options and depth. I think they have probably the better options. But Kerry.
Look at the Cian actor. I'm going to give the last word to Paddy. James.
I've been very strong all year, so I'm not going to come away from it. What a call Cork was all year now. Pundit call of the year. No, I will say that I think the Kerry's full forward line can get goals against the Dublin full back line, and for that reason, I think the Kerry need to be in a position of strength early. Half time they need to be leading. Going into the last quarter, they need to be leading by 4 or 5 points, because I think that the screw that Dublin can turn there in the championship quarter and the last quarter, and the crowd and everything, the momentum they can get. Kerry need to be 4 or 5 points up. I think they will be, and I think Kerry by 3.
Paddy Andrews. Let's hear you, Paddy. What have you got?
This is an absolute slam dunk for Dublin.
All right. And so that's 2-2. And just for the record, I reckon we'll be back on Saturday, August the 12th after a draw. So there you go.
Very
and we have to
boring.
come back here as well for the football pod. So to everybody here, thanks a million for everyone watching on YouTube and the podcast. We'll be back on Sunday evening, I hope, lads, with an immediate podcast afterwards. We've had an absolutely stacked stage tonight. 2 Footballers of the Years. There's 9 All-Stars, 16 provincial medals, 16 league medals, 35 provincial medals, and 20 All-Ireland medals up here today. And sorry. Unbelievable. Amazing. So, please put your hands together for Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue and Cian O'Sullivan and Paul Galvin. Thank you.